The Board of Health is reviewing tobacco regulations. The Conservation Commission approves changes to the way notices of intent are filed. And we get a look at the latest jobs numbers from the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board Executive Director David Augustino. All of that on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, August 24th, 2016. I'm Sarah Mannel. The Board of Health hopes they will reduce the amount of underage tobacco sales in town by changing the regulations to make them more effective. Bob Collette with Barnstable County Tobacco Enforcement presented his suggestions to the Board of Health this week.
It's time. The biggest recommendation I can make is for you to remove the warning phase and to also adopt some suspension language for multiple offenders. So in other words, when a retailer sells to a minor a certain number of times within a given period of time, you should also institute a suspension of a given length, in which case we recommend 7 days for a second offense and up to 30 days for a third offense, which is consistent with what many municipalities within our service area are doing at this time. The warning phase of which I spoke was something that we recommended to boards 20 years ago when local towns were adopting these regulations for the first time. And that was intended to give the retailers an opportunity to learn from their mistakes and without suffering any monetary penalty. And then, of course, for a second offense, what the town of Barnstable has been doing is, a $100 fine, which, frankly, most retailers now just take as the cost of doing business when a sale does occur in their establishments. It's not that big a hit for them. So what we've been recommending for several years now is to eliminate the warning phase, and for a first offense, institute a $100 fine, a second offense, a $200 fine with a 7-day suspension, and a third offense, $300 fine with a 30-day suspension of their permit to sell tobacco products. The $100, $200, and $300 progression is consistent with the limitations of non-criminal disposition, which I believe the town uses to assess the penalties. However, there is a new movement afoot now, which several towns are following, and that is just to do a $300 fine across the board for each penalty. So, for each illegal sale, for instance, of a tobacco product to a minor. So that's something you might want to consider as well.
The board will send the proposed changes to the town attorney for review and will hold a public hearing before taking a final vote. The Conservation Commission approves changes to the way a resident or contractor submits a notice of intent. The goal is to speed up the staff review process. Conservation Commission Chair Tom Lee detailed those changes before the vote.
There are 3 changes that we are proposing. So those are the 3 that are open for comment. The first item is item 5B on page 3. It's talking about an original project plans stamp in blue or red stamp. The reason for that is when we making copies, if you stamp it in black and we make copies, the copy will be black. So we would have a difficult time trying to distinguish what is the original and what is a copy. By going to a color stamping, the blue or the red, we will know what is the difference between the original and the copy. And because we're always trying to keep the original in the file. So that's the open for discussions as a change. On page 4, 7E, for coastal piers, dredging coastal engineering structures or other coastal erosion control projects, provides 2 hard copies of the NOI and plans to the shellfish biologists care of the town of Barnstable Natural Resources, 1189 Phyllis Lane, Centerville, and Massachusetts 02632. In addition, email a PDF versions to shellfish NOI@townbarnstable.ma.us. At the same time, send a copy to the Conservation Commissions with the conservation projects at townofbarnstable.ma.us. The next item is almost the same reasoning, but I'll read through that first. 7F. Also, for the coastal piers, dredging coastal engineering structures, providing 2 hard copies of NOIs and plans to the harbor masters, care of Town of Barnstable, Marine and Environmental Affair, 1189 Phyllis Lane, Centerville, Mass. 02632. In addition, email a PDF versions to town.barnstable.ma.us. On the same day, you should also send a copy to the conservation divisions using the conservation projects at town.barnstable.ma.us. The reason that we're making that change, we have some concern from the shellfish biologists and harbor master. Because in conservations, we have a 21 days hearing limit by the legislation or the regulations. And by just mailing the applications, the PDF, the NOI applications, it may take several days before reaching to the other office. So time-wise, we have a tough time trying to catch up that 21 days. So as a suggestion, trying to smooth out the application process, if we can send out the PDF to Natural Resources, Tom McCarty, and Harbor Master, they can forward their files to other members to review so that hopefully they can get the comment back to us as far as the hearing goes. That's the reasoning.
After some discussion, the board voted unanimously to approve those changes. They will go into effect September 1st. The latest unemployment numbers for Barnstable County are out. To find out more, Channel 18's Sarah Colvin chatted with Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board Director David Augustino.
Jobs numbers. We have the latest jobs numbers. What do we have going on?
Well, the unemployment rate for Barnstable County in July was 3.7%. The state rate was 4%, and that compares to 4.8% the same time last year. So it's dropped a full percentage point for the same time last year. Yeah, and the good news also is that there's almost about 2,500 more people working than there were the same time last year. We have 120,500 people working this year. There was 117,900 last year. So it's a pretty good picture, and for our employers, that means that there are more employees available to them, and it's helped a little bit, but we're still understaffed. It's very hard to go from that regular unemployment numbers and try to add somewhere between 15 and 20,000 people for our peak season.
Sure, and we are in that peak season where the hotels have more employees, the restaurants have more employees, some police departments have more employees, so certainly everything busy all this time of year. How does that affect kind of the overall yearly numbers? Is there a way to take a look at what jobs are seasonal versus what jobs are year-round?
Well, we don't so much look at seasonal and year-round. We just look at the size of the labor force and the number of people employed. So, and we did a study about 100 years ago now, but that's where we found out that we add somewhere between 15 and 20,000 workers for our high season in the summer. So, which is about 15% of our workforce. So that's a large number to try to work with. And in addition to the businesses you mentioned, even retail businesses, the number one activity for tourists around the world, always and forever, has been shopping.
Shopping.
That's what they do. And so even a lot of the retail outlets need to put on extra help in the busy summer season.
Well, be sure to tune into our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 8 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will learn about a master's program that's being offered right here in Hyannis. We'll have part 2 of our TikTok with entomologist Larry Dapsis, and we're going to have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.